Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with you with another edition of Indiana Sports Speed Radio, coming to you from not quite high atop the 18th fairway from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios today, as of course, being Friday, coming to you from BB's Market, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club of great restaurants, family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area, where you can stop in anytime, not only pick up a meal, but many of their custom meats and everything else they have in-house here with a full-made bakery. Got a new restaurant going in next door as well. So looking forward to that. The Butcher's Cut here in Bloomington. So another new restaurant here. For those of you when you're in and visiting for games and whatnot, if you don't live in and around the area, also Andy Moore Honda, of course, powers Indiana Sports Speed Radio. Go to andymorehonda.com to get more to your door with andymorehonda.com. Welcome aboard. It's Friday. I hope you had a great week, ready for the weekend. Plenty to get to. Of course, the Masters underway. And who did I say, my pick, I think I said it out loud yesterday. John, did I say John Rahm out loud?
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you mentioned John Rahm as your guy for the Masters.
Yep. But of course, it's not like I picked him out of the bottom or something. It's not like he's this black horse who no one expects to do anything. All the program today, looking forward to talking to Alec Lasley. Of course, we're going to get you caught up on Indiana basketball recruiting, just college recruiting in general. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star will join us, and special guest, of course, our good friend Dusty May, head coach for the Florida Atlantic Owls, just off of his Final Four appearance in Houston last week. So looking forward to talking to Dusty, and just amazed at what he's been able to accomplish in a short time at a place that is off the map. He is put on the map on the basketball side of things. So very, very cool. Looking forward to talking to him, though, because he's one of the most unique coaches in the game. Talk about it, and he's probably, when you think about it, he was a manager, so he wasn't a player. So he didn't have all of that experience as being under that type of stress and whatnot. But to watch him coach, looks like he's been through the wars. He is the calmest cat in the gym every time. So looking forward to talking to Dusty again, as always. Catching up with the Masters. The Mr. Basketball finalist also out. We'll chat about that. As a matter of fact, we can do that right now. As a matter of fact, we pull all those up. Of course, Xavier Booker, one of those to start, of course, from Cathedral. Is he I don't want to say leader in the clubhouse per se, but is he the favorite, do you think? Who is the favorite? Cathedral didn't win a state title. So it's kind of, is there a favorite right now? I mean, Xavier Booker was a name you heard so much of for a while. But then now these guys are equally, I think they're pretty evenly matched as far as accomplishments. But what a coveted title. There's not a Mr. Basketball title in the United States more coveted than the Indiana Mr. Basketball. I mean, just think about that. To be able to say that you were an Indiana Mr. Basketball, that's pretty good. Xavier Booker, of course, like I said, the 6'11" Booker. He did win the state title as a junior. Cathedral. He's named as Co-City Player of the Year and a McDonald's All-American. As a senior, he averaged 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks a game. Shot over nearly 60% from the field. Marcus Burton from Penn, of course, Notre Dame recruit. So you've got a Michigan State recruit, Notre Dame recruit. Miles Coven from Heritage Christian. He's a Purdue recruit, big 6'6". Man, that's is that one that Indiana let get away? Nice 6'6" wing, averaged almost 20 points a game. But let's see, and then you got Zane Dowdy. Where is he going? I forget. And Joey Hart from Linton Stockton. So those are your finalists, man. Hart, another 6'6" wing type, Central Florida recruit, averaged almost 24 points a game. Mason Jones from Valpo, 6'7". Listen to these guys, are all in that wing range, 6'6", 6'7", except, obviously Xavier Booker's not, but most of them are. That's 1, that's 2. Let's see. Dowdy's a big guy. 3, and then 1 guard. So 2 bigs, a guard, and the rest are wings, man. And that's exactly where Indiana is. They need a guard, a couple of wings, and probably a big. Is exactly what they need on the recruiting side of things. But those are your Mr. Basketball finalists. Xavier Booker from Cathedral, like I said, Marcus Burton from Penn, which is up north, going to Notre Dame. Miles Coven, he's a Purdue recruit from Heritage Christian. Zane Dowdy from Ben Davis, Marion County Player of the Year, 6'9". Of course, he was on the state champion, undefeated Ben Davis Giants, 33-0, 4A state championship. Yeah, they did that without a superstar. Great team. Did it without a superstar on that squad. It's going to be Joey Joey Hart from Linton Stockton. Now, this is a guy that you talk about that, okay, he goes to Central Florida right now. But this is a guy that 1 year, 2 years from now is someone that Indiana, Purdue, whomever, you could see him being able to come back home, depending upon how someone like that is able to develop their game, show their wares. They can show coaches, hey, you guys made a mistake letting me out next year. So lots to get to. John Boy, how's your master's board going? Do you even have a master's board?
What do you mean? Is that kind of like my predictions or something?
Well, Pete's brother Bill has a master's pool that I forget how many people were in that. I saw it's a lot in this master's pool. I'll have to pull up the email, but like first place pays $1,500, man.
Daggone. No, I don't have a master's pool, but that sounds like something I need to invest in. If it's
it's easy too. It's a lot easier than picking the NCAA tournament. There's a lot less picks you have to make. I've got to try to find that email. This show how many. It kind of blew my mind. I can't remember. Here we go.
How did our boy Tiger do yesterday? We talked about him.
Oh, in case you heard, both Kevin Na and Will Zalatoris have withdrawn from the tournament. This is the first time in this pool's history, over 20 years, that this has happened with 2 players withdrawing.
Wow.
So it has always been his rule that whatever happens after the player is teed off on the record, if a player withdraws before his tee time, it would be a different situation. But so those who picked them, they're screwed. They're not on my board, baby. I didn't pick either of them, I believe. So there's that. Now the leaderboard. How about the leaderboard? Am I on the top of the leaderboard? I didn't see my name. John, did you see me on top of the leaderboard?
I'm not in your pool. Where would I have seen it at?
I sit on the Masters leaderboard. I was kidding.
Oh, you mean you're playing? I misunderstood what you were talking about. Yep. See, first year in the NFL Combine running the 40-yard dash, and now you're.
I'm a multifaceted individual, John.
That's right.
You should know that by now. Victor Hovland jumped out to he's tied with Brooks Koepka and John Rahm, but John Rahm has not gone off for the day yet. He won't go off until a little bit later. But Victor Hovland, that's the thing about this. It's going to change. Today is supposed to be bad down there. It's supposed to rain down there today.
If it is, then that is some bad luck for everybody in attendance and playing, I guess. What is, as somebody, I know you're an avid golfer, Jim. What's the worst conditions to play in? I guess it would just be torrential downpour.
25-degree weather is what I would start with. But I mean, yeah, if you're you can't play in a torrential downpour. I mean, you just can't. It's not like, it would be like trying to play basketball in a torrential downpour. Actually, it would be easier to play basketball in a torrential downpour because you can actually drive the ball to the hole and dunk it instead of having to only shoot it. But yeah, it's wind, cold and wind, those two of conditions that you will actually be able to play in, because the wind, you've got to, play the wind with your ball. I don't know how much the wind can really affect the ball in flight. It depends on how long the stroke is and high end and all that stuff. But probably not going to affect mine a lot. Mine are bad enough as it is. I can dunk a donut, Andrew. I can promise you, I can dunk a donut with the best of them, baby. That's right. Compete. Got to compete, guys.
Break.
But we've got to take a break. Full show on lineup today. Alec Lasley is going to join us next. We're going to talk about some recruiting. As I was thinking there might be something happening today. I kept hearing rustling, but nothing yet. But don't be surprised if something pops later on today. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star is going to join us as well. And then, of course, we're going to finish up with our good old friend Dusty May, the head coach at Florida Atlantic and one of the most popular coaches in America today. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio from right here at BB's Market right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
There's Mr. Alec.
What's going on?
Sir.
Morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. I'm glad it's Friday.
Yep. That is true. It was a long week. It seemed like it took forever.
It was a weird week for me. I was off on Tuesday, not from this show, but from my other job. So I normally don't take days off in the middle of the week, but I went to Cincinnati for the evening. So it was weird. My Monday felt like a Friday, and then I was off, and then I had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, that definitely kind of throws you for a nice little midweek week there.
Yeah. Who knows where Jim went?
Shocker.
That's probably true, John W.
Yeah. That's I wonder what the odds are on that one.
You got 50 seconds if you can hear me, Jim. If you can't, I'll just get things started. All right, 30 seconds.
Just off the square in Bloomington near Cabello is locally owned and operated by Endeavor Hospitality Group. Launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewery, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Friday, April 7th. Jim Coyle with you from Beebe's Market here in Bloomington. Just walked around and heard the Time Warp. Man, I haven't heard that song in forever. How's everybody doing? Alec Lasley joining me. How are you going, man? Mr. Patagonia.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I cannot complain. Just waiting for the weather to get warm and stay warm. We're kind of in a flux in Bloomington today. It is, I think, a high of like 55 or something. It's one of those.
Yeah, it's hot and cold. There's no. Unfortunately, it feels like true spring and getting close to summer, and then all of a sudden you get hit with winter weather again. So
sounds like my love life without the hot part. Just the cold. And if you notice, somehow, and I don't know how I did this, but there's a shade on the right side of my screen. My daggone screen is now cracked where my camera is. That stinks. Yeah, that's no fun. How are things going with you?
Good. I cannot complain. It was a busy week, long week. No cracked screens as of now. So
yeah, it's the recruiting is probably not going as fast as I think as people may have thought that may happen, but because these guys are looking to make decisions as quickly as possible, but yet they still have to make a decision. It's not like they already know where they're going. So they're kind of have to quickly go through these recruiting processes again. We've seen a lot of guys like Caleb Love that have already been to Indiana. They've seen the facilities. They just do Zoom calls. And some Indiana's getting a lot of visits quickly, which that's been surprising to see the amount of visits they're able to get so quickly set up. But what's the latest, man? I know go ahead.
Yeah, obviously the two big names that everyone's talking about, at least as of right now, right? Chris Ledlum from Harvard on his visit. Visit started kind of later yesterday afternoon, early evening. The dead period ended at noon yesterday, so that's when guys were able to get back on campus for on-campus visits. So he's one, and then the bigger name, the kind of biggest name to pop up with Indiana this offseason is the Oregon freshman transfer center Khalil Ware. On campus as well, so both him and Ledlum are on campus at the same time. Both started their visits yesterday. Ware started his earlier in the day, so his visit is slowly kind of winding down this afternoon, where Ledlum today is kind of his full day visit. But they are going to cross paths. That's where everything stands right now, right? I mean, Indiana has done a phenomenal job in the early stages with Ware, and he's a major priority at this moment. Yazir Osman has some connections to Ware in that recruitment, and that's what's gotten Indiana this far. It's the only visit that he's taken up to this point. He has another one scheduled to Tennessee later this weekend, going into early next week. A lot of things can change in a very timely manner, right? In the transfer portal, those recruitments can go from 0 to 100 or from 100 to 0 with the snap of a finger. So, everything is still a little bit in flux when it comes to scheduled visits, when it comes to scheduled Zoom calls or anything like that. But Indiana's done, a phenomenal job to get both of these guys on campus early. Both the only visits that they have been on up to this point. And that's critical when you look at, trying to land two guys who are at the top of their list at the moment. And that's exactly what both of these are for Indiana. And that's what they're hoping to get out of this weekend is a potential commitment from one of the two. And they stand in good shape with both at the moment. And we'll see what the next, kind of 12 to 24 hours bring for both of those guys.
Ludlam, of course, the 6'6" wing from Harvard, someone that can do exactly what Indiana needs done out there, score the ball, gives them some rebounding assistance, create a different offensive look. So it's creating a 5-man attack instead of a kind of a 2-man attack of what they had last year. The only question I have is, what are they going to do with do you think the 2-guard spot? I mean, of course they have Trey Galloway and he could easily start in that spot, but my thought is that if you're truly trying to put together an elite team, you need to recruit over Trey Galloway. And I don't mean that negatively towards him, but athletic wise, we've seen what is needed to succeed at the highest level. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a starting role, but they've got to have someone that can come off the bench. Xavier Johnson, even if he's back, which I expect, is not going to play. You don't want him playing 40 minutes, especially coming off of the injury that he had. So they're going to need a backup point guard, basically, in essence.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest emphasis that they've obviously put, through the first month of the transfer portal since it's been open has been in the front court. It's been pretty evident, obviously, landing Ball State transfer Peyton Sparks and going after, Caden Shedrick from Virginia, another 6'11" forward as well. And you kind of look at all those players that they've really been super invested in up to this point. They've been, either 6'7" forwards, kind of small ball hybrid forwards, or centers. And, they have a lot of open minutes in the front court. So that's obviously a major priority for them. But I think at this point, they sit pretty well with some of those targets in the front court. You obviously have landed Peyton Sparks, who adds to that depth. You're sitting in a good spot when it comes to that aspect of it. You start going down the line, right? I mean, you need shooters, and doesn't have to be a starting 2-guard, but you need guys who can come in and play that role as a knockdown shooter, or else, it doesn't matter who you get in the front court, because, we saw at times throughout the career of Trace Jackson Davis what that offense looked like, right? When there were not that many shooters around the floor, especially, at the 3 and 4 spot. We know what we're going to get with Xavier Johnson in the backcourt for Indiana. And that's a guy who can shoot, a decently high percentage, but is just not a super high volume shooter from the perimeter. So you need guys outside of him and Trey Galloway who are going to be able to come in and be knockdown shooters. All right. You potentially look at CJ Gunn as someone who's going to step up and potentially take on a little bit more of that role off of the bench. But you need experienced players. We've seen this now time and time again, right? Experience wins. Talent obviously wins, but experience takes you very, very far when it comes to, NCAA tournament play and late in the season winning big time games. So Indiana needs experienced guards to kind of shore up that backcourt, and they need knockdown shooters. And, this is not knockdown shooters who can make, 1 or or take 2 or 3 a game. They need volume shooters who are going to take 5, 6 threes a game and really spread that defense out and be able to spread the offense out as well. Because if you're not going to be able to do that, then this offense is going to really, really struggle, because at the moment, there is no Jalen Hood-Schifino walking through the door, right, in the transfer portal for him or as a freshman. So they need someone who is going to be able to create instant offense from the perimeter, if it's not going to be someone who's going to be able to make plays off of the dribble, for easy opportunities for themselves. Xavier Johnson is going to be able to do that, but he's not going to be the one who's going to be able to obviously knock down those perimeter shots that we saw at a higher rate and at least higher volume like Jalen Hood-Schifino.
It's crazy as this sounds, but if you wrote out the formula, IUBB minus TJD minus JHS equals IUBB plus next year. And I sucked in algebra, so that's going to be as close as we get to formulaic math. But I think this team could actually be a better overall team next year than they were next year, because of what Mike Woodson is trying to put together. They simply did not have the weapons, or they may have had them, but I hate to say they weren't able to use them. They didn't use them. Mike Woodson was limited somewhat. I mean, you've got an All-American in Trace Jackson-Davis, so you have to use that to as much advantage as possible, and you've got a lottery pick in Jalen Hood-Schifino. But that kind of goes back to when it was Romeo Langford and Juwan Morgan. You had 2 NBA players on that team, yet they just weren't a very good team. And it's kind of like last season. They were a lot better, of course, but they've got to get to where it is a 5-headed monster, not a 1 or 2-headed monster. And because we see teams like Miami, my God, they can get it from all over the place, whether it's Nigel Pack, Isaiah Wong, Norchad or Mir, or whomever it might be. And UConn, you just won a national championship. They're getting production from all over. And that's what you have to have. It cannot be a 2-man game. And Indiana found that out. But man, I think that they could actually be a better team next year from the pieces they're putting together right now.
Yeah, I mean, they still have, a lot of question marks around this roster. And, as you look at it right now, no real go-to player. You need that, right? There's a lot of responsibility that's going to be put on Malik Renew as that post player. Obviously, you look at what we've been talking about here with some of the forward transfers that Indiana's going after. That's going to shore up that front line. But Indiana, while they may be more spread out in terms of ability to get scoring from other options, you're going to be hard pressed to kind of see what this offense can do until probably mid-season, just due to all the new pieces that are going to be put in. A lot of it needs to be around Xavier Johnson and the perimeter play. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of answers there at the moment. So, I don't necessarily, disagree that it could be potentially better all around, but you need to get some big time scores on the perimeter, because there's a reason Miami and UConn went that far. They had one. Guys that were in college for a few years, obviously outside of Jordan Hawkins, who was only a sophomore. But you look at what they had. They had pro players, they had shooters, and they had guys who could create off the dribble. And those are 3 things that Indiana just has really struggled with over the last few seasons to not only develop but to produce. And outside of Jalen Hood-Schifino, they just have not had a guy who can go get a bucket when they need it. And he did that all last year, bailed Indiana out of a lot of really, really poor offensive sets. And Mike Woodson talked about it, at the end of the season. He does not know what the style of play is going to be next year. And a lot of that's going to have to get figured out here in the next month. And a lot of that's going to have to be put on a very big emphasis to get shooters. If you do not have shooters on this roster, I know it's easier said than done, but it's not that difficult to go out and find, a couple guys who are going to be okay with shooting the ball 4 or 5 times from the perimeter. You need volume shooters in order to play in this college basketball day and age. And Indiana does not have that. They have not had that. And the only way that they're going to be a better team than last year, especially if they don't land on some of these bigger name transfers that they're going after in the front court, they have to have guys who can shoot 36+% on 4, 5, 6 attempts from the perimeter. And at the moment they just aren't targeting those guys. Now, not to say that they're obviously not going to here in the next week or so. There's still 1,000+ guys in the transfer portal, so there's going to be no shortage. And when you look at what the pieces are now around the perimeter, with Malik Renew, the potential for Chris Ledlum or Khalil Ware or Malik Renew, right? You have some pieces to build around, and that's an easy pitch to a shooter saying, hey, there's going to be a large emphasis on Xavier Johnson driving into the lane and kicking out. That's where you come in. Or there's probably going to be a lot of potential for double teams with the potential to have 2 5-stars in your starting front court, with the potential of Clearware and Malik Renew, or a hybrid forward who can take someone off of the dribble and Chris Ledlum and break down some of that defense. And that's where they need those high volume shooters. I think if Miller Kopp was a transfer this year or still had a year of eligibility, I think he would do even more things next year with the current makeup of this roster and kind of what they're going towards, because he's the type of shooter who could produce really well with a higher volume. Just the system that Indiana had in place was just not for that. And we heard Miller Kopp talk about it. We heard all the players talk about it and all the coaches talk about it, that it ran through Jalen Hood-Schifino and ran through Trace Jackson Davis, and you just kind of needed to be ready if your number was called. But they need that type of shooter on the perimeter next year in order to win some games.
Yeah, I like I tell you, when you hear that you don't know what the style is going to be next year, on one hand, a fan could be like, oh, man, I'm nervous. How can you not know as a coach? Well, on the other hand, I like or love a coach that is willing to match personnel to play, that knows that, hey, you know what, we can't, whether it's football, you can't just run the ball every year. If you all of a sudden you have a Peyton Manning, why are you handing the ball off? So, yeah, what's the personnel is going to change everything next year. But the one question I don't have before we take a break is, why wouldn't they screen for shots? We talk about, Miller Kopp, we've heard him say it, that they didn't really. The offense obviously ran through Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino. Of course, those guys were the scorers, but you need more than that. We obviously saw they needed more than that. Why didn't they try to incorporate more into the offense? That's my biggest question.
Yeah, and it was a question that I think a lot of people had, especially for a guy like Miller Kopp. The statement that was just put up by Howie, I strongly disagree with that. What shooters did Indiana have on the roster? Right, Tamar Bates was shooting 26% in the last 2 months of the season. Miller Kopp was the only true shooter.
And Trey Galloway wasn't bad, but
but again, he's not. If you're relying on Trey Galloway to shoot 5 times a game, there's a reason he only shot twice a game from the perimeter, and because that's not his game. Indiana did not have shooters, right? I mean, Jalen Hood-Schifino,
yeah, you're right.
As high of a volume as he was only a 33% shooter from deep. And, Xavier Johnson, was shooting, if you go back to kind of the last month and a half of last year and the month and a half that he played this past season, he probably shot around, I think it was like 37% from 3. Obviously, really, really good numbers, but, was only taking a little over 2 a game. So that's not going to produce, because that means you're only making about 1 a game.
But they're also taking less because the offense is not conducive to providing those opportunities.
Correct, but if you go in a higher volume offensive set, Xavier Johnson was not as. Again, if you're going to rely on Xavier Johnson, Trey Galloway to be high volume shooters, I mean that's a lot of risk that you're taking on guys who have not proven that they're able to knock that percentage down by adding 2 or 3 more attempts per game. Again, the Indiana needs to take more shots. There's no they need to attempt more threes in order to compete in this day and age and advance in the tournament. And they do not have that. They did not have that with this past roster. And they need to go out and get that guys who can shoot 5 times from the perimeter and be consistent 37, 36 plus percentage shooters from the perimeter. That's the only way that, that this perimeter offense is going to work for Indiana if they have high volume shooters, not guys who are shooting twice a game.
Hey, we've got to take a quick break. Alec Lasley is with me. We're talking about Indiana basketball, Big Ten recruiting. And when we come back, we'll talk more about the Big Ten overall, how it's going to be different next year. Who's going to be good? I don't know. I've gotten out of that game because we won't know for quite some time. But put Maryland in your book and circle them. We've got lots more coming up here. Alec Lasley is with me on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle back with more from BB's Market right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Oh, man. This is going to pop this weekend. It's probably going to one of or both of these guys are going to fall next. Alec agrees with me. Don't you, Alec?
No, Howie. Yeah, but okay. Yes, I agree. There's a lot of good talk coming, but again, Trey Galloway shot twice a game.
Yeah, I was going to say
he shot twice. What that means you're making less than 1 a game. How is that helping in any way? Let's look at
now. If he would take more shots and do that, that would be different. That's why Indiana. I keep pointing this out. Indiana was, yes. Let's talk about how they were in the top 20 of 3-point percentage of all shots, but they were in the bottom 15 of the amount that they took out of 340 freaking Division I schools.
Jordan Hawkins, the terrific wing from UConn, was taking 7.5 threes a game and shooting 38%. That's tremendous. Isaiah Wong was shooting 38% on 4.5 threes.
That's 20 points a game.
40% on 6 threes, and if you have that as your,
that's 18 to 20 points a game right there.
Yeah, there's a reason why Indiana was outscored. What was it, 76-12 or something against Penn State on the 2 threes?
Yeah. And today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Howdy. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Coming to you from BB's Market, of course, here in Bloomington. Complete with custom meats, full bakery, And coming soon, the Butcher's Cut restaurant next door, steakhouse, and much more. Looking forward to that. Alec Lasley with me right now. We have talking about recruiting and the portal and all the ever-changing issues with that. Indiana, of course, waiting for their next dominoes to fall. That right now looks like it could be Chris Ludlam and or Khalil Ware, as they are both on campus visiting. Ware is the one that has to visit with Tennessee up next, right?
Yeah, and then Ledlum has another one coming up as well.
So that's not going to happen this weekend. Any announcement from them? That's probably at least half a week away. But Indiana's involved with others as well. The Big Ten as a whole, someone mentioned, I think it was Michael, but if talking about Purdue, if they're going to do anything, what can they do? I mean, their roster is pretty much stuck and set, isn't it? I mean, they filled with a recruit of what they were losing. They're not losing much, are they?
So two things. So Ledlum is the one with the Tennessee visit, where potentially has another visit set up, but Ledlum has another visit set up as well with Tennessee. So just wanted to clarify that. But then you're talking about Purdue?
Yeah.
So I mean, they're
this year's Big Ten champion, but next year, no idea who's going to do what, because we won't know who's going to have what kind of a team for a long time other than Purdue. Purdue is probably the only team we know what they're going to be like. So we know that they're going to be up at the top because they are going to return exactly what they had this year, but a little more experience. So they should be the de facto favorite going into next season. But I don't see that. I don't see that happening next year. I think that this year that they were able to win some games early against teams before they were able to figure out how to defend Purdue. And I think that next year that's going to change for them a little bit, although Edie's still going to be a monster.
Yeah, and I honestly am really excited to see the strides that backcourt makes. They took a lot of heat towards the end of last season with their inability to be consistent in key crunch time situations. And both of those guys, especially Braden Smith, right? It's going to come in.
How hard do you think he's working right now?
Yeah, yes. He's going to come in with a huge chip on his shoulder, not only getting completely outplayed in both Indiana matchups, but one, in the late game situations towards the end of the season, really struggling with this shot towards the end of the year as well. So, I'm really excited for those guys to go through, some breaking opportunities towards the end of last season and go into this summer and have a really productive summer. And, this is honestly what, Indiana Purdue should be, right? It's when, one of the programs gets their butts handed to in both games and comes back even stronger the year after, especially with a lot of the same players and pieces to that puzzle. So it should be another exciting couple matchups next year for both of those. But yeah, I mean, Purdue's gonna have another beast next year with the the full assumption, right, that Zach Edey is coming back, which I think that's the expectation. But until that's 100% final, who knows? But they're going to have to add some pieces. They lost Brandon Newman. They lost David Jenkins as well. So they have some pieces to replace some guys who started to come on towards the end of last season or this past season as well. So they need to add some scoring on the perimeter, or else you're still going to see what you saw this year, and that's a team that really does not have a lot of punch outside of Zach Edey, consistent punch. And we saw how unfortunately that was dealt with in the NCAA tournament. So excited to see what they do this offseason. I think they'll come back really strong and ready to compete and potentially go a little bit deeper in the NCAA tournament than obviously what they did this season.
Yeah, Real Doc Bob hitting up the comment, Andy Moore Honda Hotline, saying that he doesn't see how I can think that the Hoosiers could be better next year when more than half of the key pieces are gone and unknown who will replace them. Very true, but I'm seeing this as an aggregate. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts, because Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino were the greatest sum of Indiana's team next year. You need 5 in today's game. You need 4.5 to 5 producers all the time. Indiana had 2.5, and so they didn't have the firepower. Does that mean I think that they're going to have any singular player better than Jalen Hood-Schifino? Not saying that. Or any singular player better than Trace Jackson Davis? Not saying that. But they don't need that. If they've got 2 guys that are playing better than the one played together, and especially playing off of each other, or again, I just think the sum is going to be greater than some of the parts. That's why I think that. And I think that they can be a better team, which we saw that they have to be, Alec, to succeed, because they weren't a good enough team last year with Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino on that squad.
Yeah, and it's tough because you had such a good ball dominant guard and such a ball dominant forward, and that's when the props that I give this coaching staff towards the middle of last season was their ability to just kind of give Trace Jackson Davis the reign to basically do anything on the offensive end. That was, grab the ball and go on a defensive rebound, really opened up the floor a lot. And you saw the development that he made and the strides that he made just from, last November to January. And then from January up until the end of the season, it was like night and day, Trace Jackson Davis's development in that time frame. And that's exactly kind of what they're throwing these pitches out to for these recruitments is, look what we were able to do in 16 to 18 months, right, of Trace Jackson Davis, the completely different player that he was leaving Indiana this season than what he was coming into it. And it was vastly different. His pro potential is now, with his ability to play with the ball in his hands and play through him in the post, vastly different than what it was coming into this season, where that was a major flaw in his game. And obviously the development that Jalen Hood-Schifino had was outstanding as well. And being able to kind of give him the keys to the car and let Indiana go as he goes, ended up kind of biting him a little bit. But again, that comes with that responsibility. And unfortunately, Indiana just, again, did not have the pieces around both of those guys. It's unfortunate. I think that this team had all of the potential in the world to advance a couple more rounds with a healthy Xavier Johnson. And, you play the what if games all the time, but unfortunately we'll just never know what could have happened with this roster, because it was a very good one coming into the season and a very good one with how it ended up. But Indiana needs to replace a lot. We'll see what they do, and they're taking all the necessary steps at this moment to get talent and to get key positions that they need. Now they just need to get more of them and create a lot more of that depth that they did not have this season.
I know we're focusing more on them because we're covering them more fervently, but Indiana seems to be one of the busiest. Of course, they have more spots than anybody, but they seem to be extraordinarily busy in the portal and the recruiting and out there. I mean, they are one of the busiest absolute teams going right now.
And they're busy with a purpose, right? I mean, they're not just reaching out to these guys and nothing's coming from it. You look at like in Arkansas, right? That is basically reaching out to everyone in the transfer portal. Now, granted, they end up landing 3 to 4 transfers every single year, but when you look at Indiana, right? I mean, they've had a great deal of success in the transfer portal with the guys that they have targeted. I think this year they have a lot more punch to their recruiting efforts because they have the development that they can hang their hat on, and that's why you see them going after a lot of these kind of almost one and done transfer players with the potential for Khalil Ware, a former McDonald's All-American 5-star, forward who was projected to be a potential lottery pick coming into college. What better recruiting pitch than saying, hey, look what we did with Trace Jackson Davis. Look what we did with Jalen Hood-Schifino. That's what we're going to do with you. And, not many other teams can really, say that, because it's very difficult to always, well, one thing I always said, and I know we've talked about it before with Kentucky and even with Duke, right? Those freshmen, they come in knowing that they're going to be a one and done, right? The coaching staffs didn't really do a whole lot to develop those guys. They just are uber talented. And when you look at Jalen Hood-Schifino, extremely talented, right? Not taking that away from him and not saying that he's not, but no one expected him to produce at the level that he did this season. And that shows a lot about what this coaching staff was able to do. And again, you have that same pitch with Trace Jackson Davis, and not many teams have that pitch and are that serious about that pitch when they're giving that to kids in the transfer portal. And that's why you look at Indiana making movement and having progress with a lot of these conversations, whether they are Zoom calls that turn into visits, whether they kind of just skip the Zoom call and go right into the visit. They're producing at a high level right now in the transfer portal, like not many other teams are outwardly. Now they just, again, need to land some of these guys, or else it's a moot point going into this offseason.
Yeah, I busy with a purpose. I like that phrase. That's perfect. Mike Woodson's been kind of handcuffed in a way over his first 2 years because the personnel was in place, and now as they're bringing in their own personnel, I think he definitely knows what he wants, but does he get what he needs? That's just going to be the key next year. They know what they want for these positions. He knows what he wants to do. Does he get the athletes, the players that he needs to fill those spots to be the kind of team? And then now once that is accomplished, which is hard, a battle in and of itself, now you have to bring that team together, and they'll have to play together well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I still think the biggest question mark is going to be, what the system looks like and the play style is moving forward, because it's not just losing a 14-10 guy, a 16-8 guy in the front court. I mean, you lost a consensus first-team All-American and one of the best players in your program's history, and that's very difficult to overcome, especially when you pair that with being the sole offensive option for the majority of his career at Indiana in 4 years and 2 years under Mike Woodson, right? I mean, that's a lot of numbers that are now leaving that floor and not returning. So, you're going to do that by committee, right? There's no Trace Jackson Davis in the portal. You're going to need to do that by committee, which is what they're doing right now. But again, I can't emphasize enough, and I'm probably beating a dead horse. Indiana needs to find shooters, and they need to do that quickly, or else, this team is not going to be anywhere near what they potentially could be with all of those minutes missing on the perimeter as well.
Absolutely. Alec Lasley, thanks a lot, brother. Appreciate you for joining us on this Friday. As always, go have yourself a great weekend.
You as well. I will talk to you next week.
Appreciate you, sir. Alec Lasley joining me here on the Indiana Sports Beat on this Friday, talking some recruiting. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star up next. And then we'll have Dusty May to finish it out today. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat Radio back with more from BB's Market here in Bloomington on this fine Friday, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market.
Morning, Zach.
Hey, how we doing?
Doing good. Nate, doing good. Come on, Jimbo. 30 seconds. He's done this every segment so far. Oh, well.
Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This
Zach,
segment
it's
is
just
brought to
me.
you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio here on this Friday. I hope you enjoyed your week, ready for the weekend. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star with us now. Zachary, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
Cannot complain. It's nice to catch a breath, even though it's still almost as busy, but not having to run around as much sure helps. But it's just as busy right now with the portal has created a whole new season of activity.
Yeah, no, it's kind of the season after the season in a lot of ways. Obviously, it's different, as you say, less travel, a little bit more kind of catch as catch can. I mean, last year, it's funny, Indiana didn't go into the portal. The only really big incoming we were talking about ultimately when it all shook out last year was Malik Renew. Obviously, I think Indiana, had some invested relationships with guys in the portal in case of attrition, but ultimately Indiana did not take a single transfer last year, whereas this year I think we all expect them to take, at least 3, probably more than that.
Yeah, we were talking about a little bit earlier, Bradley asking about the kid from Oregon, Khalil Ware, who has recently popped up actually and is on campus right now. That's the thing that's been that has amazed me is some of the visits in Indiana has gotten, and they've gotten some visits, but they've happened quickly. Like with Khalil Ware, that did not take long to seemingly to put together and make happen.
The visit you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing with the portal is everything's always got to be on a medium boil to begin with. I mean, that's just, you've got a limited amount of time in which you can, genuinely make some of these, some of these visits happen, these Zooms happen, the in-homes and things like that. You've got to move quickly through your process so that you can build as much of a relationship as possible and as much comfort as possible, whether you're on the program side or the player side, either one. So it has to go quickly. It just, that's part of it. Now, that doesn't mean it's fly by night. That doesn't mean you're going to just sort of visit one day and that'll be it. You'll do one visit one day and that'll be it. But, if you go into the portal, you kind of got to be ready for a bit of a whirlwind for those first, those 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it takes for you to find your new school.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, oddly, we've seen plenty of teams that have successfully navigated through the portal. Virtually everybody. There's no one that does not use the portal now. Even Tom Izzo, he's not a great fan of it, but he's going to use it. But the difficulty of building a team on the run through the portal with your current team has oddly not seemed to fare badly. I mean, we look at Miami, they didn't add a lot. They just added Nigel Pack, but worked out well. Every team, San Diego State had a few extra pieces. FAU with Dusty May had a few extra pieces. But the way they've been able to add these pieces fluidly has been great. Indiana adding a lot of new faces next year with potentially 7 on the roster. That is going to add a little bit of a challenge to it. But if you get the right guys that want to win, I think that's all overcomable.
I mean, I've seen Indiana do that before. I mean, Tom Crane, and it's difficult. It's not necessarily the best case scenario in some respects, but it number one, this was happening before the portal, I guess is kind of my point. And number two, because of the portal, and you mentioned some of those teams there that had success, because this is becoming much more the norm, it is just something you have to be comfortable with. You have to be comfortable with the idea that some years you'll go into the season like you did last year if you're Indiana, and your starting 5 was relatively easy to pick. Your rotations were not set, but you had a good idea of who could fit where and how to, who to challenge, how to get them to be better and that sort of thing. But then there's also going to be seasons like the one that Indiana's got upcoming where, best case scenario, 7 of 13 scholarship players are returners. Anything more than that, and you're bringing in more of a new roster than you are retaining one. And that's just something you've got to be comfortable with in this day and age. That's just part of the way this era has unfolded.
And another thing with the fact of having to add so many new faces, Mike Woodson wants to get this done obviously as quickly as possible because he wants to get them on campus, wants to get them together to playing together as soon as that can be made to happen, which that's all dependent upon when these guys make decisions. But of course we know that's going to be all done by probably within the end of the month, into 2 weeks into May, I'm guessing.
Well, there's a transfer deadline this year.
Right. Was it May 31st?
May 11th.
May 11th, yeah.
It closes. So if you're in the portal now and you want to be out of the portal and at your new school in this window, you have to be done by May 11th. That doesn't
you have to be entered into the portal, right? Not you have to have all business completed by then.
I think you have to have all business completed. At very least, I don't think you can take any more visits. I don't think there can be any more one-to-one recruiting interaction after that. So, it's not that rosters will be completely set then, but, we have added that as kind of a new just layer to the off-season calendar. Because after, May 11th or after that point in May, you'll have the combine. You'll have right around that same time. I don't know exactly when the combine is this year. You'll have obviously the raft of players who either are going to stay in the draft or come back for another year of school on the other side of the combine typically. And then you get into the May evaluation period. And then by that point, your summer is off and running. So it's also worth saying that's right around what is probably the last, week of school or so for most players. So it's also kind of a nice, tidy end point if you are going to be transferring into saying, we're done on this day and we move forward now. So that's kind of the hard date, but that doesn't mean Indiana's not going to fill all the spots it wants to fill before then.
Yeah. And speaking of Peyton Sparks is the one that has come in thus far. Having him in there playing against Malik Renew, I think is going to make Indiana better because up till now there was it doesn't matter how much Malik Renew had battled against, say, Trace Jackson Davis in practice, he was not going to beat him out. Now he does have a shot to start, but so will Peyton Sparks. And so that battle that should make Indiana better. I don't know. I'm not in practice, so I don't know how much competition there was because there was no competition for Trace Jackson's spot, so to speak. And I guess that can be said about a lot of different teams. But when you have a team that is so dead set, I don't know. Maybe that sometimes I wonder if that does not provide the battles that you need in practice between guys. We may have lost Zach there, John. If so, just come on back in. We'll reconnect with Zach. He lost his connection, but I forget what did I just say? Frozen in time is exactly it. Justin said he never questioned Miller Kopp's drive and love for IU. It was simply his athletic limitations. Yeah, I agree with that, but he was also put into that position to do that, and then to probably, hey, we need you to do this, but don't do this, and it probably makes it difficult for him, for any player in that position, because now you're having to hold back. You don't know when you can let go, and so that does not create fluidity. And that's something that Indiana lacked last year. They just did not have a fluid offense. It was one or two things, generally, is what it was going to be, and we kind of knew that. Everyone knew that. And unfortunately, some of the players knew that, including guys like Miller Kopp, who you wish would have been able to do things differently, but handcuffs are handcuffs. Big thanks to you, Ethan. Ethan shouting out, thanking us for bringing a A+ radio show every day and always having a fantastic lineup of guests. Well, we appreciate you, Ethan, for joining us. That's what we're here for, man. Without you guys, we have no reason to be here. So looking forward to being here each and every day, and looking forward to having Dusty May up next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Sorry we lost Zach there, but yeah, it's just pretty much wrapping up as he's trying to get back with us. Indiana getting through this, and I liked what Alec had to say, busy with a purpose. And I believe that Coach Woodson knows exactly what he wants. Can he get what he wants and get that implemented? I think that they do. Indiana is tired of being not Indiana. And I think that this trip through the recruiting portal is showing that. As Zach joins us back, looks like. Hey, Zach, how are you, sir? Hey, Zach, how are you, brother? Not sure if he can hear us, but
I think we're going to let him go.
Okay,
I think
cool.
He's having too many issues.
Yeah, no issues, no problem there. But like I said, Mike Woodson knows what he needs, knows what he wants. Does he get what he needs? I think that they do. The problem is you can't settle. You can't settle. You have to get the guys you need to get and say, hey, here's the ball. Roll it out there. Guys, nobody has a starting spot. I mean, Xavier's spot's going to be secured. But other than that, say, hey, nobody has a starting spot. We need you guys to be so hungry that you play to win for 40 minutes every game and do what you need to do every game. That didn't happen last year, and it was too many occasions where that happened. It was just a great time for a fresh start for Indiana. I truly believe that. And having 7 new faces on that calendar next year is going to give them a fresh start. It's a whole new era. Trace Jackson Davis, great as he was, here for that 4-year run. But they need to move on and develop something to where they know where they are going. You know, Mike Woodson says he doesn't know exactly what the offense is going to look like next year. Well, that's great because he doesn't know exactly the personnel he's going to have just yet. He knows what he wants to do, but will he have the personnel? Now, why they were not able to integrate, say, Miller Kopp a little bit more, well, they could. They chose not to. Why that was, I don't know. I'm not going to second guess it. I'm assuming there was a reason, but they didn't feel that either they didn't have enough confidence in that, or they felt handcuffed to not do it, which I don't understand how any coach, especially one of the stature of Mike Woodson, could feel handcuffed into doing anything. I sometimes wonder why they didn't do a little bit more, get away from that last year. I think it was a great opportunity with so many people focusing on him. And look at the year that he had, even with that attention. But it was a great opportunity to kind of bring in other elements of the offense. Now, having Xavier go down didn't help that. But I don't know that was still I don't know what that would have to do with getting shots for wings. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do differently next year. Obviously, they won't have to run it through Trace. So I think it's going to be a much more wide open, freewheeling offense. That should be exactly what you need. One that can score from the perimeter, from the inside, from off the ball, offensive rebounding. Those are the things that you have to have game in, game out. Indiana didn't have all of them. They would have 2 or 3, but not all. And you have to have them all. And not only that, the effort has to be behind that every game. So looking forward to coming up next. Dusty May from Florida Atlantic will join us. Cannot wait. Great guy. And what a successful year they had. How about Dusty May and Florida Atlantic? Up next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you want, go ahead and let Dusty May know that we're ready for him. He's got the link, or he should.
He's got the link. He's got the link. He's got the link. What song is that?
I know. I was trying to think when you started singing that too.
He's got the link. I can't get it out because I'm changing the words too much.
He's got the.
This is like from the 80s, man. Late 80s.
I'm thinking of that stupid little that little joke video that came out last year. It has the juice with the corn kid. Oh well.
Oh, that email never sent. No wonder. I'm going to put him on ready when you are. Not one of those words spelled correctly. Ready, Emin, you are. Ready when you are. He's got the look. He's got the look.
Those that's from Roxette.
He's got the look. That's it. He's got the look. This is like, that's an 80s, man. All right, I got to look that up. Song, He's Got the Look.
Don't play it over the.
I'm not playing it. Oh, stop. Don't play it. Don't stop. It is The Look by Roxette. Whoever said that. Mike Ham, yes, Mike. Roxette. No idea. When was that from?
Here comes Mr. Dusty May.
Dusty May, how are you, sir?
Good, Jim. How are you?
Buddy, I'm doing great. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, no problem.
When did you get home?
Oh, these days run together. I think we came home Sunday. Got home Sunday evening.
I didn't know if you would stay in there or not.
No, we wanted to get home. We'd been gone. We've been on the road like 23 of 26 days in March.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
All right, here we go, guys. 20 seconds.
Southern Eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Friday, April 7, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here, and could not be any happier to have Dusty May with us from Florida Atlantic. So gracious to join us again, as he has many times before, fresh off of your Final Four appearance. First of all, congratulations, Dusty, on an absolute incredible season.
Thank you, Jim. It was a wild ride, but we had a lot of fun.
Man, I remember we talked earlier the first time you guys were just rolling. I think you were 18-1 when we spoke first, but first of all, what an incredible season that you had from start to finish. I mean, you had some early games against top teams, lose one, then you win one. It kind of gets you on a run. And then, man, you guys just caught fire.
Yeah, we did. We were consistent all year. And, I told our staff I couldn't be more impressed with our guys. Once you get on a roll, you become the hunted. And for them to be able to fend off all challenges and elevate their level of play for so long is impressive. But it's a testament to how much they like to compete and love the game.
And off there, you mentioned you guys had been on the road for 23 out of 26 days in May. That's tiring in and of itself.
Yeah, the schedule just didn't really work out in our favor. We finished regular season at La Tech and at Rice, and so we just stayed in Texas, had the conference tournament. We came home for a day or two. Then we went to Columbus for the first 2 rounds. And after Columbus, we had a quick turn to go to New York City. So we went straight to New York and then came home after the Elite 8 Sweet 16 run and was home for about a day or two then. So, yeah, it was a wild ride all through March, but it was awesome because we got to spend so much time together, and it actually helped our focus.
You know, one of the things I just noticed, you were born in 1976. Good year for an Indiana guy to be born in.
No question. I wish I could remember that 76 team.
Yeah, you and me both. Tell me about when you guys win the regional. I mean, you've had an incredible season. Everything's going great. You had a big win over Florida early on, and you win all those games in a row. But when you win the regional and you're going to the Final Four, I know you're so calm that it probably still hasn't set in. But what was that moment like?
You know, Jim, it hasn't set in. It felt similar to the first couple rounds. And, you know, there's the next thing where you're going to preparation, you're figuring out what you're going to do with practice and all the details. So you don't really have time to even reflect on what just happened. And even this week, we come back and we're trying to capitalize on the run and take advantage of everything that goes with it. And it's amazing to walk around town, and we'll walk by a restaurant and the people will stand up and give our guys a standing ovation. So, you know, we still haven't had time to reflect on it, but it's been really cool to see what it's done to our community.
And you know, think of a Florida Atlantic. I think personally of Howard Schnellenberger because I was fortunate to cover him at Louisville before he went to FAU and started developing that program. Then you had Lane Kiffin, the football coach, coach, big name. And then now you put FAU basketball on the map, man, beyond on the map, and in a big time way, taking them to the Final Four. Could have probably written your ticket anywhere. But in addition to that, you make the story even greater by staying at Florida Atlantic, which I think I don't think there was anybody unhappy about that except maybe the people who would love to have you come coach for them.
Yeah, Jim, I was a little bit surprised where everyone just kind of expected our staff to leave and our players to leave. And in this era, like, there's definitely a personal side of it where we really, really have great relationships with our guys. We have great relationships on campus with our administrators and those inside our programs. So, I think it's a lot easier just assume people are going to leave than actually, putting yourself in their shoes. And it's hard to mess with happiness, especially when we have so much coming back next year and we have a real opportunity to do special things again.
And speaking of that, now, obviously, Florida Atlantic was, no offense, was not on anybody's radar to make the Final Four this year. Now, that'll be different next year. You're going to be on everybody's radar. You mentioned being the hunted, and which is now what you are. The different end of the game for you guys, but your team seemed to relish that, man. They just played so well in every game, and damn it, still wish that shot didn't fall, but we can't change life. But the way they played every game was amazing to me.
Yeah, and to be honest, Jim, if we had, we're taking this week off and part of next week off of workouts. If we went out today and did practice or did a 2-on-2 workout or whatever the case, they would play just about as hard as they did in the Sweet 16 in the Garden. It's just a group that loves the game. They love to compete. And therefore, every year there's different challenges and issues that you have to anticipate and solve them before they happen if you want to be really good. And that's going to be our issue next year. And, there's going to be different challenges. But fortunately for us, our guys love to compete so much that it's not as if they're going to have to motivate themselves every night to get ready to play. But we are going to receive everyone's best shot, and we'll be the sellout or the promotional games for them.
Talk about the difference in what I thought. I thought I saw a difference in the level of intensity for the NCAA tournament games from conference play, no matter who you're talking about. I don't care if it's Big Ten, A10, doesn't matter. There was just the level of intensity rose from the minute of the first tip in the NCAA tournament, and it never relinquished.
Yeah, the energy in those buildings are amazing. The NCAA does such a great job of promoting and the energy and the atmosphere around all these games. There definitely is a different level of intensity. But, man, what a special environment, though, to go to MSG, to play in Columbus, and then go to Madison Square Garden, and obviously to play in the big football stadium. The NCAA, once again, continues to put on a great show, and the spotlight's definitely on the games.
I know there are certain questions that you ask and that you're going to get coach speak because that's kind of the position that you're put in. Here of late, Mike Woodson's not going to be at Indiana forever. One of these days he'll leave. Now we're seeing your name batted around as potential in the future whenever that day comes as someone that Indiana has to look at. And for you just to see or hear that has to be just a moment of pride for you, but how hard you've worked. I've heard you say all you wanted to be was an Indiana high school coach, but now to be just even mentioned in that possibility in the future has to be something of a great source of pride.
Yeah, Jim, I don't want to be a distraction to that university and program or to my own. I'm very, very happy where I am. I'm working hard every single day to try to get better and improve. So all the chatter outside of what's really important day.
Big Dusty lost the signal there for a second. We're getting back on here. Of course, yeah, he's not going to I didn't expect much more than that from that question because, like I said, you're put in a position that that's what you have to do. But Dusty back with us. Dusty, do you guys have to hit the portal at all this summer? Not with us. My bad. I don't think they have a lot to – I think they have to work more on keeping guys than getting guys. Because they showed some well, obviously, you make the Final Four, you've got talent. But more than that, they had, and that's what I talk about Indiana being a better team next year. Florida Atlantic did not have a player better than Trace Jackson Davis. They didn't have a player better than Jalen Hood-Schifino. But guess what? They made it to the Final Four. They were able to accomplish their goals, to get past all of the hurdles, because they played as a team incredibly well. And we'll have Dusty back on here. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Sorry, we're just talking about. I just talking about how well your teams played as a team. Earlier, I'd mentioned Indiana probably going to be a better team next year, even though they're not going to have a player better than Trace Jackson Davis or Jalen Hood-Schifino. Hell, Florida Atlantic didn't have players better than those two guys. But as a team, the sum are greater than the parts, and that's what happened with Florida Atlantic. That's what Indiana needs to do, or any other team. You have to be greater than the sum of your parts to win. And at the end of the season, it looks like to me.
Yeah, when you look at the teams, San Diego State, even UConn, I thought those guys played their roles, and they embraced their best players, who they are, who they were, all that, those types of things. So when you look at the teams that played at the end of the year, they all had great chemistry. They had great role definition, and you could tell that the guys just really embraced the strengths of their teammates. But most importantly, the pieces fit together. And for us, when we got into the tournament, I think our versatility really helped us. And I do think we were difficult to match up with, because we played four guards who could dribble, pass, and shoot. And then we had 2 5 men who were both versatile and effective in their own ways. So a lot goes into it. We're trying to figure out what's going to be our competitive advantage next year. But it is hard to fit all these pieces together. But it's not just the part; it's got to be the whole.
Yeah. Andrew commented on the Andy Mohan hotline. FAU is the Butler of the 20s. Kind of true. I mean, you guys kind of came out of nowhere, but the talent is there and the effort is there. But more importantly, the play, and it's your guys seem to play the same way. And I think it's a reflection of you, because I've mentioned this several times on the show. I love watching you on the sideline. You're the comms cat in the gym, and it doesn't matter what's going on. I'm like, look, he just relaxed as hell. Just standing there with your arms folded, just like nothing's going on. How do you maintain that level of calmness in when all the things are going on? I know you're thinking 2 steps ahead. And in the heat of those types of battles, your calmness is really striking.
Well, Jim, I think every team needs something different. And our guys, they don't really need my energy or my pushing and prodding to get them to play harder. They compete at such a high level. So I feel like the best way for me and our staff to help is by seeing the game and helping them read the defense, make adjustments, and just see what's going on and try to think ahead. And therefore, I'm able to see the game a lot clearer because I'm calmer. I'm not as emotionally invested as far as getting on the officials and trying to, get our energy up or whatever the case. So it's just something that I've grown into. I try to be better at it. This is my 5th year as a head coach. I've tried to improve in that area every year. And I just know for me, I'm a lot better, I think, for our guys when I'm calm and I'm not overreacting or being emotional towards calls or certain plays.
As a coach, where do you pick that up? Where do you figure that out? Because athletic sports are such an intense game. The basketball, it's an intense game. Football, everything's intense in the line of play. But you're right, you have to have someone who's not intense that can be outside of that. And the coach is usually a great place to start, but that's not always the case. But you are one of those. And where do you learn that, though, that quickly, to learn all of that and be able to put it together? Because you've put a lot together in a short period of time.
Well, I think the coaches like Brad Stevens and Tony Bennett have been great examples for us young guys, just trying to figure out who we want to be. And then you watch the NBA, and the NBA is the highest level in the world. And those guys are usually calm. They don't want to distract their players. They empower the players, and they try to do their teaching and practice. So that's the way that we want to do it. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but for us, we've just noticed that our guys play better when we don't overreact to every mistake or give them bad body language and things like that. Because, once I had kids, I realized too the power of just calmness of maybe just trying to reach each player a little bit differently. So, we're always trying to add to the group. And if anything, if our body language or emotions subtracts from the group, then we feel like we're not doing our job very well. So it's been very intentional, very conscientious of just being, less of a distraction for our players.
One of the things that you're probably going to have to worry about most this year is keeping players more than having to go get them after the season you guys have had. How difficult is that going to be for you guys with NIL out there and the transfer portal? And what roster changes do you expect?
Well, as of today, our players are all 100% coming back. They have a really close, tight bond with each other, and we realize we can do special things here, and obviously everyone has to make sacrifices, whether it's financial, shots, minutes, whatever the case. And so we're all committed to doing that because of what we have as far as the human side of it. But fortunately for us, we're in South Florida, Boca, where there's a lot of NIL opportunities. There's a lot of businesses, big and small, and our players are pretty creative, trying to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. And like I said, fortunately for us, we're in an area where they can, and there's a lot of growth potential.
And next year is the first year of the new conference affiliation, the AAC, correct?
Yeah, we'll go into the league with Memphis and Wichita State and SMU, the American Conference. Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF are leaving, so we'll be in a group that replaces those guys. So we're excited. It's almost like it's a new job. It's a new challenge just because we're seeing new teams and all that type of stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Moving into that, a new conference, what differences are you expecting, especially after the season you guys have had? You probably would have been able to slide in there kind of quietly, but that's kind of out. That ship has sailed when you come in with a Final Four performance. I think we lost him again for a second. Yeah, they're leaving Conference USA after this season.
How about now, Jim?
There we go. Got you back. Yeah, I'm just asking moving into that conference, most teams don't move into new conferences coming off of a Final Four appearance. So you guys are not exactly coming in quietly. You're coming in screaming and hollering into the new league, announcing yourselves. What expectations do you have for the new conference?
Well, our expectations are to be competing for a championship in the last couple weeks of the season and be in position to do that. It's a tough league. We don't know the teams very well. Everything's going to be new. It's going to be just an exciting deal because, it's almost like you're taking a new job or the players are transferring, even though you don't have to leave. So we're excited about it. It's obviously going to be difficult. Memphis and some of the places, the historic programs, Wichita State, it'll be a challenge, but our guys are really looking forward to it. And we've played a lot of those teams. Our league's matched up well with American in the past. So if we continue to do what we're doing, we'll be competitive every night.
Absolutely. You guys have been awesome. What's it been like for you personally? I know you're just very calm and collected, but a lot of attention on the team. It seems like you're able to just take it in stride like you do everything else. But what's that been like for the program? How important has it been to the program, this run you guys have made?
Well, it's made me get out of my comfort zone because now we have lunches and dinners every single day. Just trying to capitalize on the momentum that we're generating, and that's part of our responsibility. Because if we come back off this run and we all go our own ways and go on vacation, then it's all going to be gone. So right now is a very important time for us, a pivotal time to capitalize on our success. And so now we're out working in the community, trying to sell tickets, raise money for facilities, things like that. So it's an exciting time to be here, but it's also fun to be on the ground floor of this progress.
Before I let you go on quick, did Mattress Mack, I heard that he paid for the accommodations for the families to make the tournament. Was that correct?
Yeah, you know what? Someone had given him an article about our guys and some constraints we have here. And he came and spoke to our team and talked about how, a lot of people think the American dream is dead. And he said our guys gave thousands and millions of people hope because of how they are and who they are and how they operate. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, he did an NIL deal with our entire team. He took our families to the Astros game in his suite and took care of them. So, everyone had a great time, but we're very appreciative of Mattress Mack because he's a self-made guy as well.
Yeah, I mean, just every time you see him doing something, it's all usually tied to something cool or something good, and that's a little bit more than I even knew. So for someone like that to go out of their way and do that, that's got to be great for the program and allow you guys to continue doing what you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. He took a liking to our guys, and they definitely appreciated what he did for them and their families.
Well, I hope he stays hooked up with you, man. That's a good one to have. Dusty, I can't thank you enough, man. I know you're busy. What's up next for you?
We on and on. Next week we've got parades, we've got all this stuff. So it's once again, and then we get on the road recruiting. So I think mid-May we'll be able to take a day off or so.
I'm gonna have to get some video of the parades, man. Throw some candy out, whatever it is. Enjoy it. Soak up every second of it, Dusty. You deserve it. You got a lot of people proud of you. You keep seeing a lot of comments here from fellow Eastern Green alums or whatever this area. You've got your hometown is so proud of you. You can see that. That's got to be another source of pride for you.
Yeah, it's been really cool to connect with so many people from your past that, as you get older and you have your own family and your own job and all that, you lose touch with so many people. So it's been really cool to reconnect with so many from our past and just bring so many people together. So we're proud of that.
Well, we're waving the FAU banner up here, man, and we'll continue to do that. We cannot thank you enough.
All right, Jim.
Got Owls country up here in addition to the Hoosiers. So keep flying high.
We'll take that second fiddle.
Hey, no, I'm waving them both. Hey, we gotta get some FAU merch up here put on the show.
I got you. I told my ops guy, I reminded my ops guy this morning, so I got you, Jim.
Perfect, brother. You have a great one. Thank you so much, Dusty. We appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you, guys. See you, Jim.
Dusty May, head coach at Florida Atlantic, joining us here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio. And man, cannot ever thank him enough. Always just love talking to him. He is the coolest cat in the building at all times. And how about the Mattress Mack story? Very cool. I hope he stays hooked up with them. And then I deal with the whole team. Again, that's lunch money for him, but awesome. Lots more coming up. We'll finish it up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're how much time?
In the last segment or until we come back?
Till we come back.
About a minute and a half.
Wait a minute. What's that? What's that about?
What?
Fred says hopefully we get a little more of the John and Dustin show on Monday.
I think we just missed Mr. Shooty.
Well, I'm kidding. I'm only teasing. Trust me, I do too. Yeah, like I said, I was I wish somebody would take it upon themselves and compile the manager's tree. It's that's too much for me to take on. No, I doubt Coach Knight probably, I don't think, has really the ability to, per se, to reach out to people.
All right, here we go.
Hospitality Group, launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Jim Coyle with you as always, coming to you from the mobile unit of Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here at BB's Market in Bloomington, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wild Club. Soon to on the other side over there, the Butcher's Cut Steakhouse restaurant and much more. I think they've got seafood coming. They've got a brand new breakfast restaurant menu that starts tomorrow. I meant to have that out. They were going to get that to me, but I'll have to read that later. But brand new breakfast menu here. When you're in and around the Bloomington area, stop in BB's. Butcher, baker, no matter where you live. Looking for the, what a great, always fun to talk to. Dusty is just a cool dude to talk to. Looking forward to seeing him this summer out and about at the AAU events. Pete just mentioned a great idea. It would be hard to make it, but he said, there you go. At Indiana Sports Beat Radio fans trip to Boca for the live ISB show and a game. That would be great. Or we can also go to the Ugly Grouper for watch parties. So make sure you go to the Ugly Grouper for watch parties for FAU. There you go, for IU and FAU. All you that live down in that area. But big thanks to Dusty for joining us again here today. Appreciate him. He has been a great friend to us. Louisville's best scorer into the portal. Yeah, there's going to be a few other guys that jump in there as this thing comes down to a close. See how that works out. Too bad this is not a day you can actually go out and play any golf like the Masters, because it's just too cold here. Those of you down in south of us, I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful time to get out and do just that. Brooks Koepka right now with the live lead at 8 under. I talked about this. How funny would that be if a liver ends up winning it? And he's probably the best shot for that to happen. $15 million purse. $15 million purse. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Victor Hovland, just one shot back. John Rahm, Day also there at 7 under. So it could be a good weekend. I think the weather's supposed to be great this weekend. I don't know what the forecast is in Augusta, but here we're looking at mostly sun. Saturday here in central Indiana in the 60s. Kind of easily won't hit 70 here until Tuesday, which next week is going to be incredible. That looks great. We're hitting those spring days. The Derby coming up. Yes, sir, John?
Oh, you should try to get credentialed for the Derby this year, Mr. Jimbo.
Well, I am credentialed. I'm credentialed already.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, I didn't make it down. COVID kind of screwed. I'll probably return and do the show from there this year, from the Kentucky Derby, which I used to do. Then COVID kind of screwed it up, and then you get into the habit of not. But yeah, we're going to return to doing that this year. Make life easier on you.
Going to the snake pit for the Indy 500.
Yeah, we're going to take a hard pass on that. That's going to be a hard no. Those days are long gone, and it's not even like it used to be. And I don't want anything to do with it. I mean, it's just
so where did the name? Why do they call it the snake pit down there?
Well, just imagine.
Oh, I can imagine, but where
That's
the name
why.
come from?
I was probably someone just looked up, saw a bunch of arms and legs, and said, "Man, looks like a bunch of snakes down in there." I mean, I know people that live in the Louisville area. They remember back in the days of the Kentucky Derby, the infield, which I mean, I'm not. That was probably mild compared to the Indy 500, just because of the mass of people. You're looking at so much more people, double the amount of people. But a great thing to do if you have not gone, the Indy 500, the Kentucky Derby, those are two of the biggest sporting events that we have in the country, in the world for that matter. And they're all right here within
a few hours of each other.
Yeah. So to not take those in, man, that's a huge loss for people. I need to get back to the Indy 500 this year. And I think I will try to do that. It's just sometimes you want to get away from sports for a while.
Oh, yeah. I don't blame you.
But looking forward to those events. They're great events. The Derby is just a great event, completely different. I know it's a lot of people out here are not all into. It's not that I'm all into the betting or all that. It doesn't matter. It's just there's so many different storylines, cool things. I love the difference, the uniqueness of it. I am a horse person, or was when I competed, but so it's. I like adding the variety to the show. We can't basketball every day. So we like to add a few other things. Do I have a pastel 3-piece suit for Derby? I do not. I do not have a pastel, nor what do you call those? Lee would know. What do you call those old suits that look kind of old style? They got a little stripe in them, white with pinstripe. Boy, I'm blanking on the name.
I wish I knew, but I have no idea.
It's just a certain style that they call it. Seersucker. Yeah, seersucker suit. I don't have that, but that's
the extent of your Derby attire?
I have to combine things to make it look like it's Derby-ish. I have to take a normal looking sport coat that could be, lighter colored, beige, whatever, some window painting, and then put a different tie, a different shirt, pant. I mean, you can take normal stuff and just, I'm not into getting all wacky and weird, but it's a lot of people take it as the only opportunity to do that as an opportunity. There you go. Zoot suit. Put that on. Andrew came up with it. The seersucker. Do I have a Derby hat? I mean, I have hats that I could wear. I do have a hat that I have worn to the Derby once. Now, I also have plenty of cowboy hats. And if I want to go that direction, which I've gone that way instead. But there's you go. Yes, I have a huge, beautiful hat for the Derby. Large brim, lots of flowers, big old plume coming off of it, Pete. It's beautiful. It comes down, matches my dress. It's awesome. I may have to get the dress taken in this year. I may have to check that. But yeah, then you've got the 500, the same deal. But the difference between the Derby and the 500, the Derby is just an opportunity to go have fun. You chill. Most people are very relaxed and informally dressed, probably T-shirts and shorts. And there's plenty of that at the Derby, but there's more. Most people are dressed up. Most people are dressed up, where at the 500, that's not the case, which is fine. It's just a different, it's a little southern. It's the southern part that does that, because if you go down to down in Lexington at Keeneland, everybody's dressed up. But that's the thing too with school down there. All the kids come from school. They're all dressed up. It's the cool thing. And
it's a day. Oaks Day is always a school holiday around here too. Which
Oaks Day.
It is.
Hell, it used to be Oaks Day. Then it was Thurby. Oaks used to be the day for the locals in the Louisville area. That was kind of the day that things weren't as expensive. Well, now Oaks is almost up there with the Derby, just below it a little bit. It's equivalent of the female the fillies. It's their Kentucky Derby, but as far as people, it's just the crowd is crazy. And now Thursday they call Thurby. That is kind of supposedly the locals' day, but that's getting pretty full as well, which I'm sure Churchill Downs loves that. But so there's that. Yeah, I don't have any platform shoes. I could wear those. There you go. All day, Andrew says, all day drinking and gambling. That sounds like an American. That's an American event right there. Drinking and gambling all day. Drinking and gambling. That sounds exactly. Pete, thank you, sir. Says he jumped on late, but a great show. Appreciate you.
I can't wait. Speaking of gambling, and I'm not really a gambler, but I can't wait to be able just to have the ability beginning next year to just log on to a sports betting app.
Okay, let's talk about that. We only have quickly, but so sports betting is now legal or will be legal in Kentucky. When does that start?
That goes into effect. It's supposed to go into effect beginning January of next year. So just in time for, the college football playoff, the rest of the NFL season, conference basketball season, kind of in the heart of everything that people around here care about.
Well, and the cool thing is that's connected to a state that is already allowed with sports gambling in Indiana. So those that live in southern Indiana can cross the border, still make your bet if you're over on the other side of the river. Because if you cross the river, let's say you're over in Jeffersonville, down in southern Indiana, which is down by Louisville, directly across the Ohio River from Louisville, and you were trying to make a bet on your app and you're driving and you cross that river before you get the bet in, it won't let you. It'll kick you.
Yep.
You have to be within the confines of the state, which is kind of funny. Heath says he's never been to Derby or Keeneland. He's 40 minutes from Keeneland. Dude, you're missing out. Live some life. Go out and check it out.
I've been to Keeneland once. I've been to Churchill Downs, I think, twice. I've never been to Churchill Downs for the Derby or the Oaks, but I've been for just one of those casual days of racing.
Such a huge difference between those two tracks. Louisville or Churchill Downs in Louisville, located right in the middle of the city, which it didn't used to be that way 120 years ago, but it is now. Very commercial. You've got the Dodge Ram on it, all the barns in the back, the announcer and all that. Keeneland, I'll have to check. I don't know that they still even have a public address announcer. I think they may have added one, but forever they traditionally did not even have an announcer. The races ran, you watched them, and that's how it went. But we'll have to check all that out. Plenty of that coming up to get to, and but plenty to get to over the weekend as well. We'll follow the Masters. We'll keep track of the recruiting trail for college basketball to see what's going on there. Big thanks to everybody on the program today. Of course, Alec Lasley, Zach Osterman, and of course, Dusty May, the head coach from Florida Atlantic, for joining us. Great week on here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. If you missed it out, you can always go back and check out any missed episodes on YouTube. And while you're there, subscribe and hit the like button. Appreciate everybody. Hope you have a great day wherever you're listening, down on the river, on the ref. Always the right call, 97.7 ESPN, or up on WJLB, 1230 AM, 104.7 in the region and Chicago. Hope you guys are having a great day as well. For John, I'm Jim Coyle. You guys have a great day. Thanks a lot. Without you, you've got no reason to be here until Monday. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.